Jay Glazer, Fox Sports NFL insider, from his Twitter account, just heard from Gronk. Already took his physical for the Bucs. Trade not completed, but he's coming back for the Bucs if all goes through. Wait, he did what? Talk about burying the lead. Yesterday, apparently, Tom Brady was cited for playing football in a park. Did we know if Rob Gronkowski was there? Oh, we forgot to mention, Brady was throwing footballs in the park to Rob Gronkowski. Adam Schefter says, trade pending physical. Patriots are trading Rob Gronkowski and a 7th-round pick to the Buccaneers for a 4th-round pick, sources tell ESPN. I know you think Hall of Famer, he should be worth more, and he probably should be worth more. But that's not really close to the way it works. You're taking a $10 million contract from a guy that wasn't going to play in. There is no leverage when you say, I only want to play with one team. So they get a 4th-round pick. Buccaneers getting interesting now. Oh, getting interesting now. And then the question becomes, the part of the Gronk thing is he's going to have to put back on the weight. How do you put back on the weight if you can't lift? But could he be a rehab guy? Because I don't know if you guys have listened to some of what we've been saying is the only people who can get into these football facilities are people who are rehabilitating injuries. If you're rehabbing an injury, you can go one-on-one with a trainer or with with somebody who's helping you rehab, a rehab specialist or whatever. But Gronk to the Buccaneers is done. We knew they had good tight ends. Now they have, him and Cameron Brate. That means O.J. Howard soon to be either cut or traded as well. Not keeping 3. And that dude makes $10 million, which means they're going to draft a right tackle and probably draft a running back. The big question becomes, can you get a pass-catching running back, which, and they also don't really have an underneath guy, but, man, do they got some talent now. And not a good look for New England. This is one of those, maybe it's confirmation bias, but Gronk. And now, look, 2 years ago, they were going to trade Gronk to the Detroit Lions, and Gronk said he would rather retire and play for any other quarterback than Tom Brady. So this was probably a poorly kept secret as to whether or not Gronk would ever play for anybody. I am playing for anybody other than for Tom Brady, which is amazing. Amazing. I guess my first thought is, they got to trade for Julian Edelman too, right? Don't they buy her? Don't she like? What the hell? Let's go all in. Because the one thing they don't have is the Edelman, Welker, Amendola, Rasheed Caldwell, Troy Brown type. They don't have that, and you're like, well, what the hell is New England going to use him for?
Yeah, well, they've got obviously Godwin and Evans.
Yeah,
Scotty Miller was a young guy that that can kind of fill that role, I think, for Tampa Bay. So they've kind of got their own version of Edelman. Imagine
being Edelman right now. I'd be like, dude, really? You're gonna leave me out here?
He's gonna be throwing to skyscrapers. Look, his targets are just insane.
Wow. Oh man, that is.
By the way,
amazing.
Yeah, no excuses anymore. No excuses about lack of weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, look, we don't know. We honestly don't know what Gronk's going to look like athletically. Do I think that he'll be healthier to start the season? Yes, but there was a reason that Rob Gronkowski contemplated retirement before and did retire, maybe before he should have. And remember the multiple arm surgeries. He's had 2 back surgeries, and he tore his ACL when he got undercut. So, there's a dude who, he has a long laundry list of it. And, yes, you feel better at first, but he's going to have to put back on some of the weight. And then, how can he stay healthy throughout an entire season? That's a TBD. But the weather should help him. One of the things, New England weather when you're first starting in practice can be great, in the fall is amazing. But, man, playing in that cold and that snow and in that entire division, outside of Miami in that division, everybody plays not only outside but in the cold. That's going to feel a lot better on those bones. A lot better.
There's a lot going on, obviously, with this trade that went down. But I think you brought up the point earlier of, Gronkowski not wanting to be in New England and how much of an indictment that may be or may not be on Bill Belichick, depending on your thoughts. But it was brought up that Belichick tried to trade him to the Lions, prior to that 2018 season. So at that point, Gronk comes back and plays for New England that season because Brady's there, but that's where the loyalty obviously was. I don't think it was with the Patriots if he was saying, well, I'm going to retire if you end up trading me to Detroit. So it's not necessarily, I'm not saying that the bridge isn't burned between him and New England, but just the fact that it may have been torched 2 years ago, and the only reason he stayed was just because of Brady.
It is interesting that here we are talking about a documentary that's the end of one dynasty, and then we talked today about the end of another dynasty with the Golden State Warriors, and we're watching the end of the Patriots dynasty, and all for dissimilar and similar reasons. Dissimilar in that, you got different sports and whatever, but similar in that some of it is about credit, some of it is about front office treatment, right? I think also, especially in the Patriots and the Bulls case, age does play a major, major factor in that at some point, every great run comes to an end. And as Rick Bucher pointed out yesterday, like people who thought they'd keep the Bulls thing going, that got to be an old team. Yes, Ryan Music.
So, as we were just saying, Gronk not wanting to come back to New England, only wanting to play for Tom Brady. How bad is this going to look for Bill Belichick if they continue to have a high level amount of success? I mean, it's sort of predicated on if the Bucs do well, people are just going to rip on New England for letting Gronk and Tom Brady go too early. Or if they struggle, it'll just be total confirmation that Bill Belichick's like the greatest football guy ever and just continually lets people go early as opposed to too late, and nobody should ever trade with Bill Belichick ever again.
Yeah, I guess it's a TBD. I mean, they're clearly loading up on draft picks, and they're going to have to remake. Everyone thought that this is kind of a bridge transition year, and next year is going to be the year where they're going to be able to shed salary. So I do think that the Patriots are playing the long game, and Tampa's playing the short game. And I'm not sure that the Patriots are even in the position to make some of the moves that people had proposed for them in the reality of what they had on their salary cap, right? So let's see. Let's see. But you are truly the starting over part isn't the hard part. The starting over and finding a new quarterback really is.
It's spot on with the long game versus the short game. And I would also say this, in just bringing up some numbers, we kind of forget what Gronk was later on in his career. And we remember the big catch in the Super Bowl against the Rams, and we remember the conversions against the Chiefs in that AFC Championship game. But that season, Doug, which consisted of 13 games, there were just 2 games where he had over 100 yards, and there were multiple games where he had 2 or just 3 catches. So, they have enough weapons in Tampa to throw to. It's not like Gronk's going to come in and have an 80-yard, 80-catch, 1,200-yard, 8-touchdown season. I also think that there are situations where you can use him, but it's not like you're going to, have that sort of Pro Bowl type of year.
Well, let's see. Now, remember, what made Gronk a superstar was his ability to be as good a run blocker as a traditional blocking tight end. This is, Florio came at me. Was that over the weekend? About my comments about George Kittle. And the point I was trying to make at the time was what New England lost in losing Gronk was just because you had Gronk on one side didn't mean you couldn't run to that side. Like, look, Tony Gonzalez didn't block. He's okay, whatever. I mean, he'd tell you, like, I don't really block. And Kittle's probably not the best example. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Whenever there's other guys that are worse blockers that are great pass catching tight ends. Travis Kelce is a perfect example. Great pass catcher, just he blocks enough. Now Kittle is a good blocker, but it's not like this is how it was described to me by one GM. Like, look, the 10 best blocking tight ends, no one's ever heard of because they don't catch passes. They're blocking tight ends. The thing that Gronk was he was as good a blocker as those guys, and then a great pass catching tight end. The question is, has that changed? One of the reasons that they ran the ball so much more in New England was he couldn't get open nearly like he used to, and they had to get a mismatch for him. And here's the last thing. Didn't the Dallas Cowboys last year add a tight end who had sat a year and done broadcasting? That did happen, right? How'd that work out for the Cowboys? He couldn't move. Now, he's older than Gronk, and he just signed with the Vegas Raiders, which is, they're signing him because of his brain, not because of his body. But the idea that old Gronk is going to be this Gronk after a year off, I'm sure he feels great now, but he's going to have to add the weight. He's going to take some shots. And will he be the run blocker that he used to? If he's going to be the run blocker, he's got to add strength. If he adds that strength, does that break down his body? Because he's been injured a lot.